Now, in the last interview, I mentioned to you guys that there was a riot over that guy. What would we call him? Smackdown or Knockout or something?
So,
it was the race. It was the race riot. And you guys, said, was he like one of the toughest guys I'd seen in there?
Right.
When I saw T-Bone walk across the prison yard, it was like something out of a Conan movie. Yeah. This guy was 6.5 foot, black guy, and just his biceps bigger than my head, basically. So because of the rules of racial division, I wouldn't have just gone up and talked to him on the yard.
Mm-hmm.
But there was an unusual situation whereby, I had my blog and the prisoners had found out about it by now. There's a big story about how I started my blog, which I could get into later on, and how I almost got killed over my blog, which I could get into later on. But it just got in the news, and some of the prisoners had found out. Prisoners don't have internet, but their family members give them a heads up. So I'm just in my cell one day, writing at my little stool combination table thing bolted to the wall, and all of a sudden the sun blacks out. This guy T-Bone has just entered my doorway. So I turn around, I'm like, holy shit, is this guy going to sweat me? What the hell does he want? I'm absolutely shitting myself. My heart's going dun, 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 dun. Anyway, I'm like, what's up? And he's like, he starts asking me about England and English history. He says he's fascinated by the
Romans. Fascinated by the Romans.
By the Romans, and he wants to go to England and visits Hadrian's Wall. And all he does is
this guy sounds cool as shit.
He is cool as shit. All he does is read military history books. So he was a former US Marine. He'd seen action. And when he stood in my doorway, he just had his trousers on. His entire body covered in scars, not weenie scars, like horseshoe-sized scars. And every single one was a different life and death prison fight story. He was the ultimate prison gladiator. But not only was he standing up for himself, he was stopping the raping of the young people. And I've got, so my complete journey, most of my journey through the jail and the prison was documented in an online blog called John's Jail Journal, JONS, which started back in 2004. It's still there if anyone wants to check it out and read it. So I've got a lot of my blog entries in front of me to remind me of the stories that I've not told you guys yet, because I did re-listen to the podcast. I've picked out some particularly hard-hitting ones, but T-Bone, the first conversation with him, I put that online, and I'm going to read you what he told me about, a little bit about himself and about prison rape. So this was back in 2006, 2007, I think. So I said to him, how much prison time have you done? 18 years since 1986. How many riots have you been through? 4 big ones. I saw people losing their lives, heads getting bust open with weights, pipes, baseball bats, picks, shovels, people getting shanked in their eyes. How did it feel to be in those riots? You got to do what you got to do. You got to get down. It's hard for me to explain to people outside of prison the effect of a prisoner calling another prisoner a punk. If someone calls you a punk, how does it make you feel? Right away, I'm thinking of death. I'm not going to go berserk. I'm going to wait and catch the person alone. The cops won't see it, but I'll deal with it. How? It depends on who's saying it. If someone calls me a punk, that's like saying I'm a piece of nothing. I'm subhuman. I have no honor or self-respect, that I need to be killed. In prison, you have 2 things, yourself and your word. Certain words are worse than raping someone. If someone calls me a punk, I'm going to handle my business. Whites, Mexican Americans, and Mexicans make up most of the prison population in Arizona. So you must have experienced a lot of racism. In Arizona, blacks are always at the bottom of the totem pole. I've experienced pure hatred because of the color of my skin. People seething with vile contempt and hate, looking at me like they want to kill me because I'm black. But I'm wearing the same prison clothes, doing the same time. How cheap is life in prison? It means nothing. I've known people killed for as little as $40 worth of heroin. You must have lost count of the fights you've seen. I've seen so many people get annihilated, it's unreal. I've seen cops get stabbed, one in the eye. You must get sick of it. The raping annoys me the most. It's the foulest thing for a man to do to another man. Back in the day at the walls, every single night someone was getting brutalized. You could hear male flesh pounding male flesh, and nobody stopped it. You couldn't snitch, and if you couldn't fight back, you were game. Some of the rapers were the size of apes. They'd squeeze the back of the victim's neck to put them unconscious. There was a smell on the run from so many dudes getting raped.
Ugh.
Regular dudes, not homosexuals, getting brutalized, punked, scared to admit they were getting raped. You'd also see big dudes kissing little white boys like they were women, kissing them on the lips and neck. Then all night long, you'd hear the men getting raped. I said, what a nightmare. Worse, gang members would hold someone down and stick things inside him. Things? Yes, cans, soda bottles, shampoo bottles, broom handles, and metal shanks. I've got a lot more to say about T-Bone, but I'll get your thoughts. I'll get your thoughts on that.
I mean,
did anyone else pick which one? Like, I think broom handles is my object of choice.
I've never had an issue with that before.
If you're gonna have to pick one of those, you went with the broom handle over the sharpened.
Yes, I did. And the
handle?
shampoo bottles get a lot of girth, if I understand it right.
Yeah, so at least you get some good out of it. But it's that shit's vile. I mean, not T-Bone. He sounds awesome. I like him a lot, but I also liked the way you asked him about like a specific thing, and he was like, "I've seen a lot of people get their head caved in," and then like that's a specific injury, and so the answer to that should be like, "Yeah, the jail they brought in a 15-pound kettlebell for us so we could work our posterior chains, fight off the rapes, and and somebody caught one in the head, crushed his skull." But he didn't just say that; he was like, weights. A really big light bulb at one point, trays, leg of a chair, that guy with the big hands. You see him on YouTube.
Leg of lamb.
Came in. Yeah, leg of lamb. And so it's like, okay, that's like 7 different instances of this guy seeing a head caved in with like 7 different objects, and that was just top of the head what he could remember that morning. So that's wild. That is a horrible life to lead. But it seems like he was trying to like. And I'm editorializing a lot, but it seems like he was like, if I'm going to be here, I was a Marine. I was someone who tried to fight for the good. Well, I'll use my body here to try and like protect the weak and the rapeable.
So what did T-Bone do? Why was he in prison?
All right. So the T-Bone crime story then.
People, so he's a little bit of a hypocrite.
when T-Bone got out of the Marines and he saw action in the Marines and he had PTSD from it, he became a bodyguard, and he was in the gangster lifestyle, the night lifestyle, gets on the cocaine, and all of his crimes. And he must that was back 2006, 2007. He's back in prison now. He must be at 30 plus years right now of incarceration, all revolving around drugs lifestyle, crimes to finance drugs, that kind of activity. Now, sadly, T-Bone did get released about 5 or 6 years ago. And I was on the phone with him every week trying to get his life story down as a book because I thought that would give him credibility to do talks. He's very religious. He wanted to do talks in churches, in schools, and his heart he's got this massive heart, obviously for protecting these young people he didn't even know from prison rapists. Yeah. In this cutthroat environment, he's got this massive heart. But I knew
a massive heart from the cocaine.
Maybe enlarged. Yes, that's what happens. So I knew I was in a race against time because he's institutionalized. The prison industries feed off people like him. They have special cops watching him, trying to get him back in the system. We discussed that last time, the economics of it, $60,000 a year of taxpayers' money when they rearrest you back to the prison. So they swatted him. His neighbor, who was an old lady, they had a shotgun to her head. They were screaming at her, how do you know this guy and all this shit? And then they get him incarcerated and they say to him, look, you've done a robbery. We're going to give you 200 years if you go to trial and lose. But just sign this plea bargain right here and we'll just give you a little 15-year sentence. Now, T-Bone hadn't done this robbery. This is how they squeeze you into the system without a trial because it costs them money to give you a trial. They think you will be so scared of facing 200 years by rolling the dice at trial, especially if you're a black man in Arizona. That's a very risky proposition. They think you will be so scared of that, you'll just sign for 15 years for something you've not done. So he went and prayed, and he came back, and he said, look, I've prayed. I've decided not to do it. God's got my back. I'm going to go to trial. I'm not going to accept responsibility for something I've not done. So he went to trial, and they got the cop on the stand, and they said to the cop, "Is this the location where he did the robbery?" "Yep." "Was there a camera where in this location?" "Yep." "Show us the video of him doing the robbery." The cop said, "We didn't have time to get the video." So the jury was like, WTF is going on here? And they found him not guilty. And he was so happy. He thought he was getting out. But once the system has got you, it has got you. So there was a woman in trouble with the cops. You know, they reduced her charges or whatever, gave her a pass to say that T-Bone took $20 off a countertop in a store. She got on the stand and said that, and she was believed over the big bad black man, and T-Bone was found guilty, and they gave him 13 years.
For $20?
Yeah, because of his prior convictions, they enhanced it.
Jesus Christ, that's horrific.
Isn't
and
it?
Was there any
absolute abomination?
And there was no even evidence that he even took the 20 other than this woman
Nothing.
saying.
They don't need a shred of evidence.
That's pretty scary. It's one of those things I imagine you don't realize how scary it is until you're in the mix and you're like, oh, I forget. Yeah, I'm being arrested. I'm the side with no institutional power, no outreach. Like they can just bend me over and fuck. I could be 100% innocent. Like
there are people who sign plea bargains for stuff they've not done just so they can get a short sentence so they can get out the next day. If you watch that documentary on Netflix, the Khalif Browder story, they said he stole a backpack. He was in Rikers Island. He was getting brutalized. They said, "We'll let you out tomorrow. Just sign guilt." And he said, "No, I've not stole it." And he stayed in there and he got even more brutalized. And it's horrible what happens to him. But he could have got out, but he had integrity. So, yeah, it's a really messed up system. But T-Bone was helping these young people, preventing the raping of them in this cutthroat environment. And rape is so common out there. We had to go to a prison rape class to get taught how not to get raped. Did I tell you about that last time?
I don't think so. I could use this information.
Yeah.
All right. Prison rape class, right? So we get this like a little slip under our door saying, you know, you got to go to the rape class today at such and such a time. The guards come and all the prisoners are joking.
Here's how you want to enjoy your rape the most.
Pass the Vaseline back.
This is exactly the conversation.
How to prevent rape. Well, it's not rape if you consent. End of class.
Yeah.
This is the conversation on the way to the rape class. You just guessed it. They're saying, are they going to give us rape kits and all this kind of shit? Just joking. And then, you know, we get to the rape class and they got this big badass like sheriff looking guy with a canary cowboy hat on in there, who's one of the guards. He's a high up guard, and he's showing us the video. And so you got predators in a day room on the video, and you know the new arrivals are hungry, and if they take food from the predators are going to come up to them and say, "You got to pay for that food now, or you're going to get stabbed up." Mm-hmm. Well, how am I going to pay for that food? I've got no money. Well, go in that cell over there and do whatever that guy tells you to do. Now, once they fall for that, if they do that, then it's called getting turned out or becoming a prison punk, and there's no coming back for it, and they're rented out as prison prostitutes. And the conclusion of the rape class was, to stop rape, you've got to report it. And I think we went over all the gang rules last time from the Aryan Brotherhood when you go in, what they told me. You can't speak to the guards about anything, or it's KOS for snitching.
Yeah.
So T-Bone wasn't just knocking these rapists out; he's getting stabbed, hit in the head with river rocks in socks, 2 or 3 of them at a time. You know, there's all kinds of stories he told me that I wrote down. I'm eventually going to put his book out because he has that. They talk about having the heart of a mountain lion. Fucking hell, man.
Did you learn anything in your rape class where you're like, "Oh, good, I didn't know that"? Or was it
good teacher?
They said if someone puts like sweets under your bed sheets, don't take the candy.
I learned about that the hard way as a child.
Well, you know, from the Xena story last time with the broomstick in her posterior, she did survive that, but other prisoners that she knew had there was one, they put the light bulb in his posterior and made bets on who was going to smash it. That prisoner didn't survive that day. He killed himself afterwards. But Xena told me a lot of stories of people getting gang raped, and for T-Bone to be doing that, honestly, bravest man in the world, absolute fucking brilliant.
Yeah,
person.
They should make a HBO miniseries about him.
They should.
Yeah, it'd be like Oz, but less horrible.
Yes.
Not that Oz was a horrible show, but it is discouraging to watch.
I hate Oz.
It makes you like sad to watch it, but it's entertaining.
No,
it is a good show. Oh, come on!
I regret watching it. It's a terrible show.
It was the timing. You might like it more if you didn't have it.
You were about to go to
hanging
jail
over your head.
Who would watch it again? How could I watch it again? It was awful. It was so depressing. Just nothing but death. And every time you think that like, oh, something good's gonna happen, so and so is gonna get out of prison. No, they're gonna frame him up good now.
Oh, this guy's, who we've been rooting for has finally figured it out. Got the upper hand. Now he knows what the score is. Nope. That was a fake relationship, and now he's in trouble.
Yeah, it's awful. I hated that show. And it wasn't a good time to watch it right before going to prison either. Probably poor timing. Poor timing on my part. So you think you're gonna do a whole book about T-Bone? Like how does the T-Bone story like progress from there? Like,
yeah, I mean, so he was in prison back in the day when I think 60 Minutes did a program when I was on a prison saying it was the most dangerous. This was Florence prison. It was the most dangerous square mile of real estate in the entire country back then. It was so brutal. I mean, the guards would just take you out to the desert, shoot you in the head, and bury you if they didn't like you. Things like that. Everyone was housed together in this one prison. It wasn't all industrialized and spread out like it is now. So without the cameras and everything else, the brutality was just completely off the scale. So over a period of years, I documented my conversations with T-Bone.